In this video, we will talk about false identities. In order to start this episode, I would like to pick up a little bit on what we talked about earlier about identities. From the time you're a child, you develop aptitudes, tastes, skills, and values that depend directly on the recognition you have been given as an individual. As we explained in the last episode, Honet explained that individuals need three basic spheres of recognition in order to build a stable and worldwide identity. These spheres are love, rights, and solidarity. However, when an individual lacks these three characteristics, it's very likely that he or she will be driving to generate a false identity. False identities have not been new, nor is it just part of the current generation. Over the years, many people have generated false identities that have even provoked wars between countries. In this video, I would like to analyze a little bit about a person who in the past, due to the false identity he created, managed to create an army that ended up eradicating thousands of people just because they belonged to another religion. That is correct. We will talk about Hitler. But first, we need to remind why we choose Hitler as a subject of study. And why we decide he had a false identity? Well, that's what we are going to talk about today. As most of you know, Hitler was a German politician, military man, and dictator of a Caucasian origin. Most authors describe that Hitler had a traumatic childhood where he suffered beatings and mistreatment from his father, as well as seeing several of his siblings die. Going back to what Honeck explained, due to his traumatic childhood, he did not have the capacity to establish healthy relationships with his family, nor was he able to understand the importance of solidarity. These are some of the characteristics that can help us to encompass Hitler with a false identity. When he grew up, he moved to Linz to study, where he began to acquire German nationalism ideology, and was later rejected by the academy because his drawings were not good enough. Yeah, that's correct. Hitler drew. But he ends up being homeless and begins to develop an extreme hate for Jews, blaming them for Germany's economic and social problems. From then on, everything went downhill, but due to Hitler's ability to speak and convince, he managed to create a political party faithful to his ideals, which expressed that Judaism was not a religion but an attempt to impose a world dictatorship, and explained that in order for his people to enjoy freedom and life, he needed to expand his territory. Hitler proposed to classify the people into citizens, subjugated, and foreigners. From there, he not only created a false identity of a person, he created a false identity for a whole society, which formed the name Nazi. The consequences have been enormous. It caused the Second World War, and it put Jews, homosexuals, women, and children in concentration camps where they were tortured. He killed thousands of people using anti-Semitism and nationalism as a justification. In other words, he claimed to be a pure race. It is important to note that one of the consequences of having a false identity is to create a false perception of who you are and how you see others. In this case, Hitler described himself and his subjects as superior to everyone else around them. Before closing today's chapter, I would like to take up again the catastrophic consequences that false identity can generate. Hitler not only killed thousands of people, he practically exterminated almost completely an entire society. Besides this, it is necessary for me to take up again the importance of recognition and participation in a society of an individual from birth, because if he had not suffered from lack of love, recognition, solidarity, and respect, perhaps history would have been written differently.